Hi Year 4, hope you're all okay. I have got your final Wonder video for this week. I hope you enjoyed the Great Assembly, and if you're watching this in the morning, I hope you're looking forward to the Great Assembly. So I've got your final music lesson for this week, and I'm going to share the slides with you and show you what we're looking at. Okay, guys, first of all, a huge well done for another fantastic week of home learning and in-school learning. It has been amazing to see everything that you guys get up to at home and see all of the work that you put in. You've got such enthusiasm and integrity for carrying on, even though we are not necessarily physically all together. So well done, guys. You really are smashing it. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at and identifying popular instruments used in the Baroque genre. So in Year 4, we have a couple of genres of music to look at. And so we're going to be exploring the world and exploring the music to develop our understanding of Baroque, something that I wasn't really very familiar with before doing this, so we can learn together. And we're doing it so that we can understand more about this genre that we look at in Year 4. At the bottom of the slide, I've put that this is going to go in our purple Wyndham box set books. So if you could all, like I've done on my whiteboard, open your Wyndham box set book and write down for me the date. I would do this on the second line down rather than the very big line at the top. So do the date for me, underlining it with a ruler, and then the title music, underlining that with the ruler for me. So pause and do that one. So we are just going to today gather information about Baroque music because it's the start of our topic on it really. So we're going to use a kind of graphic organizer to keep note of our own learning and take ownership of what we learn today. So in the middle, not quite the middle, oops. I'm going to write the word Baroque roughly in the middle of my page, and I'm going to draw a neat circle around it. Notice I did the writing first and then drawing the circle to make sure that my writing did fit inside it. And for each piece of information or fact that we learn about Baroque, we're going to make a note of it coming off the center, so it's a bubble map. So this period of music refers to any music and composers that were around between 1600 and 1750. So that is roughly over 400 years ago. So it's quite a while ago. And it was around the time of Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder Plot. And it was also around the time of the Great Fire of London. So it's quite a while ago that this music was established. And on my note here, you can just see in the top corner of the screen, I'm also going to write equals 150. Using your maths brain, why do you think I've written equals 150? Well done. It's because the period of music roughly lasts for 150 years. So I've just noted that down there. And then here we've got the births of Bach, Handel, Vivaldi and Beethoven, and they are four very popular composers that we will look at in a second. So music composed in the Baroque era can be described as elaborate. So that is one word, elaborate. And dramatic. Dramatic. And I think dramatic is quite a good word to describe what Baroque music is. Okay. You may hear several decorative trills within the same piece. And decorative trills are when two notes are played quickly together, one after the other. So it's almost like the music's this kind of music is a bit kind of trying to show off almost. You've got decorative trills. I might just add a little note about that here. Notice how I cannot write and talk at the same time, but notice how I'm writing in a straight line as though I've got lines on my page. So decorative trills, which again, like I say, is almost like it's showing off. Okay, so more information. George Frederick Handel and Antonio Vivaldi and Johann Sebastian Bach These are three very famous Baroque composers. And I know last year Mrs. Tildesley's class was called the Antonio Vivaldi class. Okay, so I'm just going to make a note of those three names, all on different arms of my graphic organizer. So I'm just going to write their surnames. And we've got Vivaldi. And we've got, I think I'm saying that correctly. Apologies if I'm not saying it correctly. So Handel was born, lived between 1685 and 1759. Antonio Vivaldi was alive between 1678 and 1741, and Bach was alive between 1685 and 1750. So they're all around roughly the same amount of time. They're all around in the same era. Okay, so now we're going to also make a list of some instruments, because our what from the lesson was to identify popular instruments used in the Baroque genre. So this information is extra, but the main thing to meet our what is that we want to note down the instruments used. So you can see here, they're all quite big instruments used here. So the main ones is the harpsichord, which I will give you a bit more information about in a second, the mandolin, the cello, the double bass, and then also violins, violas, recorders, and sometimes even trumpets. So I'd like you to pause here for me and note down those instruments. Okay, there we go. So I have filled in mine with all of the instruments from this screen. And a harpsichord is very similar to a piano, whereas a piano, when you press a key of a piano, it makes a small hammer inside hit the correct note. A harpsichord is very similar. You press it, but it plucks the note. So instead of hitting the note like a piano, a harpsichord, easy for me to say, plucks the note. So it's set out in a very similar way, but they are slightly different in the way that the sound is created. And finally, new styles such as harmonies, concertos, and sonatas were also introduced into compositions. So a concerto is a solo piece composed of one or more instruments and accompanied by an orchestra. So it can be for any instrument. It's where there's an orchestra sort of creating the background music, and the solo piece is played on an instrument as the centerpiece. And a sonata is a piece written to be performed by a soloist, and it's made up of several movements. Okay, and harmonies, will fast forward to next week's learning. Harmonies will help us a little bit next week because we're looking at sounds and types of music that sound nice together, which is links to harmonies. Okay, so that is what I would like you to have for today's learning, something similar to this, but remember it is your own learning, so it is obviously absolutely fine if it's set out different to mine, because it's you taking your own learning and being responsible for it. Okay then guys, so that's the end of this lesson. Have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you do lots of things that you love to do, and I will see you very soon.